It's easy to simply tell you that thousands of people and children go missing every year, with dozens going missing every day. However, it's something entirely different when you can actually place yourself in the position of those families, friends, and loved ones who've lost those who are dear to them, with no idea whether or not they're even alive or dead. Families are torn apart every day due to kidnappings, or simple cases of individuals going missing for completely unknown reasons. In some cases, it's borderline miraculous when the individual returns home to safety. But here are 5 such cases where missing individuals were found, safe or otherwise, all of which have taken place in 2019. Number 5. A 3-year-old boy went missing in January of 2019, but authorities say that he was found alive and mostly well after surviving intensely cold weather, rain, and even what police referred to as simple critters. A spokesperson for the FBI told the media, "It's the outcome that we always hope for, that we strive for every single time." The young boy named Casey Hathaway was last seen on a Tuesday afternoon while he was playing outside with 2 other small children near his great-grandmother's home in North Carolina. The other 2 children remained outside for quite some time, playing as though it were any other day. However, when they were all returned indoors, Casey was nowhere to be seen. His family and grandmother searched everywhere for him, but he was completely gone without a trace. Police were called almost immediately, and in a phone call with a 911 operator, Casey's grandmother can be heard saying, "We lost my 3-year-old grandson. It's been 45 minutes because we've been all out looking for him." The call was placed on a local news station after a transcript was made public. Local news organizations hoped that broadcasting the call would bring more attention to the case and help to bring the boy home, with police already beginning an exhaustive search for Casey in the meantime. Hundreds of volunteers showed up and formed a search party to attempt to locate Casey, with both state and federal law enforcement showing up as well. Police brought along canines, aircrafts, and even drones. They searched for nearly 2 days before having to call it off due to extreme rain and winds that had blown through. The search volunteers were requested to discontinue their search due to safety concerns of police and other officials. Searchers described the terrain as treacherous, with many of the areas being flooded or filled with sinkholes. Even professionally trained search personnel reported difficulty maneuvering the land. Countless hours passed by, and there was no sign of Casey, who weighed just 25 pounds and was not even remotely dressed well enough for the harsh weather conditions. The local county sheriff issued a statement stating that they did not give up and were very persistent in their search. After making this statement, he reported on Thursday evening that Casey had been found and was safe, happy, and back home with his parents. Casey's mother appeared, stating, "We just want to tell everyone that we're very thankful that you took the time out to come and search for Casey and pray for him." Her eyes were filled with tears as she said, "He's good. He's up and talking, and he's already watching Netflix." She was accompanied by local medical services captain, who found the boy in the nearby woods after responding to a tip that had been called in by a local resident. The man said that he heard Casey's voice and then detangled him from a thorn bush that he was caught in. He was immediately asking for his mother, and rescue personnel had to wade through waist-high waters just to reach him. The police said that he was cold, wet, and covered in scrapes and cuts. His coat was thankfully still zipped though. Responders said that all things considered, he fared the weather quite well and was very fortunate to have made it out alive, let alone perfectly safe and healthy. Casey was ultimately found less than a quarter mile from his grandmother's home, with police saying that they believed he would likely have been within a quarter mile the entire time that he was missing. Casey received medical treatment at a nearby hospital and is expected to be perfectly fine in the long run. Number 4. A 22-month-old boy was reported missing back in May of 2019, and just 3 days after the report, he was located near a strip mine just a short distance away from his home. Kenneth Neal Howard was found crying on a cliff by the local county search and rescue team. According to police, Kenneth's parents had informed officers that the boy was doing well after being located and airlifted to an emergency hospital and given treatment for any malnutrition or injuries. According to an eyewitness, no one was allowed to ride in the helicopter with him, though many gathered around to watch as he lifted off. Many were simply looking at him or talking with him, and after he was discovered, officials say that he was strangely calm, cool, and seemed to be happy and content. It was assumed that the 22-month-old would be horrified after such an ordeal, but Kenneth was okay and showed no signs of emotional trauma. Hundreds of individuals showed up to help search for the boy, including people from Kentucky, Ohio, and even Tennessee. Police say that he disappeared after being last seen in his backyard on a Sunday evening. Police are able to locate him after they used a grid search method, which officials say is quite effective in locating children under the age of 3. Police say that most children under 3 remain within a quarter-mile radius of their home if they happen to go missing. He was out in the cold, rainy weather for an estimated 67 hours, wearing nothing more than a t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants. Authorities say that the boy was found by the sheer grace of God, and that he was located after rescuers followed his audible cries. According to one of the rescuers, the guys that found him probably would have walked by him, not because they didn't want to find him, but just because of the overgrowth and denseness. We're at full canopy, which is when the trees are grown over and bushes and weeds and everything. Had the boy not been crying, there's a chance he would have succumbed to the elements and passed away. Number 3. In April of 2019, police say an unidentified woman was approached by a young man claiming to be Timothy Pitson. Timothy was a young boy who disappeared with his mother back in 2011, with his mother taking her own life a short while later. Timothy has never been found, though the mother left behind a note claiming that he was with people who cared about him and that he would be very safe. His remaining family have been searching for him since the disappearance in 2011, though very little movement has been made on the case since then. The man claiming to be Timothy says that he was kidnapped by 2 men and that he spent the last 8 years of his life locked away. At the time of his disappearance, Timothy was just 6 years old, meaning that he should be about 14 by now. Police say that the man claiming to be Timothy also claimed to be 14 years old and that the 2 men had been holding him hostage at a nearby Red Roof Inn. The woman he flagged down was extremely suspicious at first, but then realized that the man was simply scared and bruised. The man further elaborated that since his disappearance, he'd been traded between several different people and was simply wanting to return home. Law enforcement began to scour the area in search of the Red Roof Inn matching the man's description, as he would not provide details about exactly where this motel was. The FBI soon became involved as well and continued the search for the motel. However, in an almost unimaginable turn of events, following a DNA test, the man was confirmed to have not been Timothy, but rather a 23-year-old man posing as a 14-year-old boy. The FBI now says that the man faces up to 8 years in prison due to his false confession, and that family members of Timothy's are utterly heartbroken once again. The brother of this man came forward and spoke, stating that he's hurt over his brother's actions and that he empathizes for the Pitson family, though when asked about his brother, he stated that he wouldn't so much as even speak to him. The man, now revealed as being Brian Rennie, is expected to be convicted in Cincinnati later this year. Number 2. A 6-year-old boy went missing in August of 2018, alongside his mother and her boyfriend. However, in January of 2019, the boy was returned home to his biological father after he was found hiding inside of an attic crawl space that had been nailed shut. His father retained full custody of the boy after a legal dispute that took place years ago. The boy, named Braden Jones, had been visiting his mother for a couple of days before he went missing for 5 months. The boy's mother and boyfriend were located and arrested as well, following a search warrant that was issued for a home located in Missouri. According to the local sheriff's office, the crawl space had been nailed shut and covered up with carpet or cloth, with other furniture items being placed in front of it to block it off. Police say that the boy was kept from going to school and that he was filthy and in complete disarray when found. He told police that he hadn't had a bath in a long time and had dirt caked onto it. Upon returning to his rightful family, though, he was greeted with Christmas presents that he'd missed and is said to be attending school again next week. The boy's mother and boyfriend are being held on 2 warrants, one of them being for child abduction. Number 1. This story certainly doesn't have the cheerful ending that you may hope for, but it's an important story to discuss regardless. In August of 2019, a 6-year-old boy went missing after falling into a river while on a fishing trip with his family. Lucas Dobson is said to have slipped on a Saturday afternoon, with his father and 2 others jumping into the water to attempt to rescue him, though he was taken away by the strong water's current. Over 300 people were called to the scene by police to begin a search for the boy, with officials describing the situation as being a massive operation, being carried out all throughout the night, with the search not even beginning until 10 p.m. When the sheriff was asked about the possibility of the boy's survival, it was described as being unlikely, and sadly just days later his body was found. According to the family, he'd fallen while trying to maneuver between a jet ski and a boat, but had slipped and fell in between the two. His body was found days later in a nearby area where he had fallen. His mother thanked everyone who showed up to search for him and says that their kindness will never be forgotten. The young boy's school reached out and said that they were deeply shaken by the tragedy, with the flag in the local town now being at half-mast in Lucas's honor. A crowdfunding campaign has been set up to help the family to afford funeral expenses, with the funeral likely to have taken place just this past weekend. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep updated with our videos. And if you enjoyed this narration, maybe consider checking out my personal channel at youtube.com/ty_knots.